The National President of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, Festus Osifo, has revealed that the federal government had restored the subsidy on petrol despite the official government policy of ending subsidy regime since May. President Bola Tinubu had announced the removal of fuel subsidy in his inaugural speech on 29th May, leading to increase in fuel price from 197 naira to between 480 naira and 570 naira. The pump price was subsequently reviewed upward to 620 naira. But Osifo, who is also the president of the Trade Union Congress, said the government still pays subsidies on petrol due to the cost of crude oil in the international market and the exchange rate. He added that the government can stop subsidizing petrol only when it manages the exchange rate effectively and pumps in supply to bring down the exchange rate. Now, joining me on the news to discuss this issue is an energy consultant, Seun, Dania. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Hi, good morning.
All right, so yes, thank you. So now, with this new revelation of fuel subsidy being restored, it's quite obvious that the rationale behind its removal in the first place is defeated. Now, what are your thoughts on this?
It has always been, known by most of the people within the industry sector. Yes, fuel subsidy needed to go, but it didn't need to go abruptly. It was essential. It's very clear that we can all see that there's been no clear synergy between the previous administration and the new administration, even though they were, the same party. So it just seemed like, taking out fuel subsidy was just the right thing to do. But I would have thought that it's basically, it's better for the government to analyze the situation, against the impact on the environment. As you can see, the entire country they've lost trust for this current government because of the hardship that's been imposed on them. There are so many concerns, even with foreign investments and, local businesses doing business in Nigeria, because the cost of doing business is so high. But it's still very possible that, the government can retrace their steps, actually, engage with all the industry experts and engage with everybody within the industry to discuss how this thing can be phased out. And the government needs to be very, very, very transparent with how they're going to plan and go about this. I also think that some level of public awareness needs to be done, because there are a lot of people, if you engage in several conversations across the country, different talking about fuel subsidies, people have different understandings about it. A lot of people will say, yes, we are for it, but today they really do not even understand why the issues are, persistent. So it's essential that the government needs to be able to put in, measures to ensure that local production is there so that it can actually balance the imports. If we are importing most of our refined products, we'll always, come back to this.
All right, so Seun, the removal of fuel subsidy was intended to improve the fiscal policy of the government. Now, has this been achieved in any way? And would you say that this removal of fuel subsidy has caused more pains than gains on the economy?
Yeah, evidently has caused more pains than gains. Of course, government is in place to make the lives of the citizens better, to make the country better. But, over the past few months, the citizens have suffered, have had to go through undue hardship. And right now, we're not even, people feel that sacrifice was in vain. When we come back, we notice that they've still been paying subsidies up to the amount of over $200 million, even though that's less than what was being paid before. The safety nets that were supposed to be put in place have not been put in place, and the short can't even scratch the surface. So to answer it, it was too early, even though we understand fully that the previous government did not make any provision for subsidy payments in the new budget. But politicking is over. Now it's time for actual governance. So it would have been ideal, even though it was supposed to end in July. The government took over in May and immediately announced the removal of subsidy, which we still had money available, or budgeted for a full month. And immediately it was announced, prices went up, everything just started spiraling over. It's still, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not the lost cause. The government can still retrace its steps, go back to the drawing table. With politics, everybody say, I want to hit the ground running, want to start doing this, want to make bold decisions, we want to, but you have to consider the lives of 200 million people. People have sacrificed enough in the past, in the past 4 months, and it's nothing that is going to be forthcoming. We know that the government is putting measures in place to ensure that our local refineries come back to production. The Dangote refinery will also be coming on stream maybe later on in the year, but those things need to be in place first. I honestly believe that the government should lead and not the citizens. The government can lead, the government can, turn down its cost to its expenses for a while, just for a few months, while all these safety measures are put in place, and then we can then now take our subsidies that will not affect the people. Everybody will definitely, have trust in the government and know that the government is, on the side of the people, and it will, foster more trust and reduce corruption within that space.
Okay, well, a lot of analysts, just like you, actually seem to think that the fuel subsidy removal should have been phased out rather than removed completely. Now, but marketers, now in addition to the increased fuel price, marketers of PMS in Nigeria have actually raised the alarm over the lightness of the product in some retail outlets, saying it is inferior to the quality that the NMDPRA approved. And they further described some of these products imported to Nigeria as evaporating and not durable. Now, what could be the reason for this bad batch in circulation?
Honestly, from my experience and my expertise, the oil and gas industry is one of the most scrutinized and one of the most detailed industry in the world because of how volatile and how toxic and how combustible the products are. So, products and specification, before any product leaves a particular refinery or any depot, there's what you call quality assurance and quality control is carried out, right? So investigation needs to be done in that regard. If a product leaves a refinery and is imported into Nigeria, even at the point where the product is getting to the shore, when the vessel gets to Nigeria, somebody does QA and QC on that product before it goes to the tank farm, even at the point where tankers are going to pick up from the tank farm or from the depots, there's still some quality assurance and quality control done. So at the point where it then now gets to the fuel stations, and then we are now having reports of it being lighter or being adulterated, and something funny is going on in between. So everybody who has done QA/QC definitely signs up on every product that they have qualified. Okay. And I think that's where the investigation should start.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Seun, Dania, for joining us at this time with your thoughts on this issue.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.